Shalom. This is Rabbi Julie Danan. I'm religious leader of Seaside Jewish Community in Rehoboth Beach. I'd like to share some words that I offered once at Maritime Day in Lewis, Delaware. We were beside the Overfalls, that big red boat, the historic lightship, lovingly restored by a large crew of volunteers, which has become such a celebrated Delaware landmark. Lightships were like floating lighthouses that kept other ships safe by their use of lights, horns, and eventually radar. So here's what I said, and I think it can be relevant at any time. The creation story of Genesis begins in a state of chaos. Darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. This Hebrew word for the deep, tehom, is used many times throughout the Hebrew Bible to represent the depths of the sea, as well as the primeval forces of chaos hovering at the edges of human civilization. Tehom can also represent the great and awesome mysteries of existence beyond our knowledge or control. Much of the times, our lives can be like a stroll on the beach, concerned with things of every day, like seashells that catch our eye, or the ephemeral sandcastles that we built as children. But every now and then, we look out in awe and sense the vastness of the ocean just beyond, recognizing all along that we have been dwelling on the edge of a powerful mystery. To walk the coast, to venture out into the water, or to dive beneath its surface nurtures our spirituality because it puts us in touch with that sense of awe, reminding us that the world is so much bigger than us, and yet we are blessed to be a tiny part of it. Spirituality occurs when we sense this deeper dimension that is always there on the edge of our existence. Some people tend to be spiritual in nature because they embrace that mystery. They may even seek to enter it. But if spirituality is like that love and awe of the sea, now faith is something else again. Faith is more like a lightship. We all have different beliefs, but faith is not just identical with belief. The Hebrew word for faith, emunah, is really synonymous with faithfulness. Those lightships were humble vessels built to faithfully serve others. The restoration of the Overfalls by committed volunteers was itself an amazing example of faithful action. A life of faith, like service on that lightship, requires commitment, dedication, and even a willingness for self-sacrifice for the greater good. The crews of the Overfalls and the other lightships represent a life that few of us could attain, one that we can only honor today. Yet we in our daily lives have the opportunity to be lightships out in the world, serving as a beacon for those lost in the fog of confusion or caught in a storm of life. We have a sacred opportunity to be present, to offer guidance, and to accompany others when their encounters with that tehom, those depths of life, have threatened to overpower them. As in the words of Psalm 42, when deep calls to deep, that is the Hebrew word tehom, the deep, calls to deep, and the roar of your waterfalls, and I'm going to venture my own translation here, the roar of your overfalls, when all your breakers and billows have swept over us. Yes, when those challenging times arise, faith is that lightship. Is the lightship. Faith is staying the course and knowing what keeps you anchored in a storm. We all have different beliefs, and whether you place your faith in God, in your heritage, in humanity, you can make the choice to be a lightship, to illuminate a path for others, to see them back to the harbor, back to home. And in the words of Psalm 107, those who go down to the sea in ships ply their trade in the mighty waters. They have seen the works of the Eternal and God's wonders in the deep. So here's a prayer. Source of life, author of all creation, your voice is above the thunder of ocean waters, but also speaks to us from the still small voice within. May we be blessed to find wonder and spirituality in the mystery of the sea. May we derive inspiration from those who served on the lightship, the Overfalls, and many others like it, who dedicated their lives to keeping others safe from harm. And may all of us, in stormy and challenging times, find our own faithful way to be the lightship that sees one another home. And let us say, Amen. So I have a couple more minutes left, and I'd like to tell you a story about two seas in Israel, in the Holy Land. One is fresh and one is very, very salty. One is the Sea of Galilee, in Hebrew called Yam Kinneret, which is from the word kinnor, a harp, because it is shaped like a heart. This freshwater lake teems with fish and is ringed with rich farmland. The second, the Dead Sea, called in Hebrew Yam HaMelach, the Salt Sea, is 10 times saltier than the ocean. In fact, it's so salty, only bacteria and microbial fungi can survive in its waters. It's ringed with salt formations, one made famous in the book of Genesis, and it's surrounded by desert. An old legend explains that both these seas, which are actually lakes, receive their water from the Jordan River, but the Sea of Galilee is vibrant and alive, while the Dead Sea, at the lowest altitude on planet Earth, has no outlet for its water. So what's the difference? The Sea of Galilee has an outlet. It flows outward to the Jordan River, contributing some water from local springs as well, while the Dead Sea can only receive and does not flow outward. So the teaching to be derived here is that those who give flourish, but those who keep everything just for themselves might dry up and wither. By giving to others, we actually keep ourselves flowing and growing, and that is a lovely and beautiful legend. But I'd still like to add that sometimes we need to receive as well as to give. It may be better to give than to receive, but there are times in our lives when it's our turn to receive from others. And if we are not able to do that, then the flow of giving, the cycle of giving cannot continue. So let's be like healthy waters that give when they should and receive when they should. Let's be like lighthouses and life and light boats, showing one another the way that we need to go. Again, this is Rabbi Julie Danan from Seaside Jewish Community. Thank you.